first and foremost, good morning, everyone. If you're watching this one, I hope that you have your nice day. I hope you eat well and drink water. Stay hydrated and stay safe. So today, I am going to discuss to you syntax, phrase, structure in English. So basically, this is all about syntax. When we talk about syntax, it is all about the organization, how you construct the sentence, whether the meaning is nonsense or not, or it has a thought or not, whether the grammatical structure is not good or not very good, or even the meaning is uh, pointless or it doesn't suit in our Philippine context. We still need to identify the syntax with the use of how words are organized with each other. So when we talk about sentence, we will go back to uh, the very basic component of, of a language, which is the sound. But in a complete sentence, sound comes from the word. I mean, a word comes from a sound. So a whole bunch of sounds would create a word. So that's the part where we start our syntax. Word plus word will become a phrase, and uh, phrase plus phrase could become clauses, dependent clause or dependent clause. And after clauses, we can have a sentence. So in syntax, we will go back to the word construction from the word plus the word from another word, just like what we had last time with modular tracker. We talked about you answered, and I know that you individually performed and understood the modular tracker about the parts of speeches because that is just a review. That was just a review. So I best believe that you are really into, and it was the stepping stone for us to start with syntax. This part of speeches are those words. For us to know how to complete a sentence, we will use those part of speeches to form one. Okay, so be reminded that right now we are using the international context, international English context or standard that is being used also with the standard Filipino context. We will not use the Americanized or British or other accents. What I told you before is in the international standard or international context, all of our interviews, all of our communication with other people, if since we are, you are all coming in, uh, like you are all future educators, you will have to educate students from lower to higher year, even though you will pursue other English language um, like courses or jobs or dreams or path, you still need and must go back to international standard and learn, relearn, and explore everything about international standard, not Americans. Okay. So that's the point in here. And since you have the foundation of the international context, you will easily if you have thoughts about um, choosing the British or the American, gusto mo mag-abroad or something, since you have the uh, like fully packed foundation of the international language that comes from phonetics, then you have the semantics, you have the syntax right now. It will be easier for you to translate, like to transfer all of your information, data, knowledge with international to American or to British. So right now, let's start with syntax, and I hope everyone want to share this information because this is useful for you. All of you. Let's go back to clauses and phrases. What are the differences between clauses and phrases? So number one, clause. Clause is a group of words containing a subject and a verb. So always be reminded, subject plus verb, it will be a clause. And sometimes subject, verb plus object or complement, that will be a clause also, and it is called independent. Independent clause is a complete sentence. It is a simple or kernel sentence. It has subject, it has verb, and it has object or complement or other things. So that is the independent clause. And what about a dependent clause? Though independent clause has like words, nouns, or like adverb and adjective. But the point in here is it cannot stand on its own. It needs an independent clause to complete a sentence. Dependent clauses often begin with such words as although, since, if, when, because. Let's take for an instance. We have in this graph, as you can see, this one, we have dependent and independent, and the dependent in there is although she is hungry. Okay, so the question in here is although she is hungry. So is it complete or not? It is not complete. Is it incomplete? Why? Because first, what do you mean although she is hungry? I know that we don't know if she is hungry or not hungry, but what do you mean about your sentence? So it is incomplete, and we need something that would define that incomplete sentence or incomplete phrase or clause. Okay? So right now, we need to pair it with an a complete thought or a complete clause. So right now we have she will give him some of her food. So after the one, a dependent plus independent clause, complete sentence. Independent clause is equals to complete sentence, and dependent clause is not equal with um, complete sentence. So the complete sentence in here is, although she is hungry, she will give him some of her food. And the next example is whatever they decide, I will agree to. Yes, independent clause has a first, I as a subject, will as a verb, and agree, and two, and the two will be the object in there. And next is the dependent, whatever they decide. So whatever they decide. Another question is just like what's the question? Whatever they decide. What do you mean by that? Whatever they decide. So what's with the decision? Okay, so that's incomplete, and that will fall with on the dependent clause. Okay, so I hope everyone is clear. And since this is just a review, I know that some of you were refreshed during this time. Okay, next is phrase. Since we are done with the clause, we will talk with a phrase. A phrase is a group of words without a subject-verb component, and it is used as a single part of speech. So if the clause has subject and verb, and it could be added with a simple sentence that can create a whole bunch of complete sentences. Phrase is just a simple phrase without subject and verb. So you cannot create a sentence using the phrase, but when you add phrases to phrases, you can or you could complete a clause, or you could create a clause, and after creating a clause, you can finally have the dependent and independent clause and create a sentence. So a phrase is a group of words without a subject and verb component and used as a single part of speech. Remember, single parts of speech. So it means that though we have part of speech just like this one and this one, it will fall as one. Like for example, number one, best friend. In here, as you can see, best friend. Draw this one, best friend. So the best friend in there is um, this phrase acts as a noun. Why? Though best is a superlative adjective, like a good, better, best, an adjective, superlative. Friend is a noun, so if you add best plus friend will become best friend and it will become one as a compound subject or a compound noun. So that will act as a noun. So that will be a phrase, a noun phrase. Okay? So it will be called a noun phrase. Next, needing help. Though need is a verb, but you put ing, which will be converted as gerund, and needing help. This will, and help is in here, needing help. So needing plus help in here, and this phrase acts as an adjective like needing help. Okay. So next with the blue shirt, the phrase in here started with the word with, and this is a preposition. So with the blue shirt, with a blue shirt, with the blue shirt. So since with the blue shirt, this prepositional phrase acts as an adjective because next time na ito mahibalaan in class. But just put in here that since this is a preposition, it will create a prepositional phrase. Okay. Next, for 20 days, for 20 days, this one, for is a preposition and it will act as an adverb. This prepositional phrase acts as an adverb. For 20 days, uh, all of these in here class are phrases, and uh, the acts in here will be defined later, or we will be discussed with the mm, like what you call that one, the examples later. Okay, so I hope everyone got it. The point in here just is uh, when we talk about clauses, we can have subject and verb, or we could have a complete sentence. But when we talk about phrases, though we have different words come that can come up with a clause, but in phrases we don't have subject and verb, and the phrases could be the subject, but it it can't be with the verb, or it can't be with the subject itself, but it could be a noun. Okay, so we are done with the differences between clauses, independent and dependent, and the phrases. So right now, let's go start discussing the i-erase na ako. The syntax. So clear drawing. So okay, right now we will start in here. And what is a phrase? Phrase or the phrase structure larger than words. So just like what I have told you, words are combined to make phrases. Like the people. So the da is the word, and the people is the word, and the people is a noun phrase because it talks about a noun and it was started with the determiner. The circularity of system of units and structure in English means that it is impossible to write about individual words and word classes without mentioning their function roles in larger structures, including phrases. Okay, so tama ba ko pagbabasa mo? Mag-delay kayo kuan. Uh, encouraging. Pero the point in here, class, is uh, it is hard for us to clearly understand the role or the function of the words that we are creating or we are reading if we don't know the basic component of how we put an emphasis on the words. Like if for example the sentence the people are good or the people is good. For example, that one, um, it is hard for us to tell that who are this kind of people, or which which people are you referring with, or why is it that they are good, or why is it that we are using is or are, because the phrases will reflect the verbs, and the words will create a meaningful sentence, meaningful phrases for us to recognize the whole thought of us, whole thought or whole complete sentence. Okay. So next, phrase structure. In English, phrase classes reflect the four major lexical word classes in English, so that there are noun phrase, verb phrase, adjective phrases, and adverb phrases. So these are the four lexical word classes in English when we talk about phrase structures in syntax, and each of which is centered on a head word of the relevant class. So head word is uh, the word that we can accompanied with those relevant class in order for us to create a phrase. For example, the for example, nice people. So nice people. Let's try to have to know which is what is a head word. So nice people. Though basically, when we talk about head word, we are talking about the word that is the core, or the word that has expresses the core meaning of the sentence or the phrase. And we are and usually when we talk about head word, it is like the topic of that kind of phrase. Like it is the thing that we can refer with. For example, a nice people. The head word in here is this one, people, because we can this is an adjective, this is just an adjective, and we can have people without an adjective. That is a head word. But it is hard for us to understand if we are just talking about nice. So what's with the nice? What do you mean nice? Nice with the word, nice with my expression, nice with my speaking ability, nice with my food, my look. So it is hard for us to know which nice would you like to mean with or refer with. But when we talk about people, it is like a fixed word. It is like a fixed noun that we can had a core meaning. People. Okay, so you are talking about group of person. People. You are talking about lots of individuals. Maybe combination of he, she, or one, two, three people. So that's it. We can have a head word. So be reminded, the head word is the people, and the relevant class is a nice. And this one, nice people, we can directly say, though dili pa siya kayo, wala pa na-introduce og tarong, but this is a noun phrase, okay? I mean adjective phrase because it starts with an adjective. So it means that two words were being added, and it will create a phrase. And whether you like it or not, whatever the relevant class you you accompanied with a head word, that is the point where you should call your phrase should be. For example, nice people. So it is, since nice is an adjective, so it would be adjective phrase. If you will talk about, for example, the people. So since the is a pre-modifier, and that will be under with noun. So that will be a noun phrase. That is not an adjective phrase. Um, for example, in people, we get trust. So in is a preposition, and we started our sentence with preposition. So the in people can be called as prepositional phrase. Okay, so we will talk about that later. But right now, that is how we construct a phrase. Okay, so next, okay, phrases, like words, form part of larger structures and are not usually complete in themselves without either the rest of the clause or some context that can fill in a clause, like conceptual structure. Here are examples of phrases which represent prepositional phrase, noun phrase, and adverbial phrase or adverb phrase. So, daghang yung actually koan class tawag, pero let's stick with the usual one. Okay, so the point in here is uh, just like what I had told you, word plus word will can create a phrase. But phrase will in that kind of point, in phrase point, we can we can create a larger meaning with the phrase, and the phrase uh, will contribute to a larger structure of having a clear thought. Because the point of having a sentence is to give your listener or your audience or the one who you're speaking with, give him her a clear thought of what you want uh, to be heard or to express with. Okay, so right now on my chest of drawers near the window. So number one, this one. So in here we are talking with prepositional phrase. Though we have my as pronoun, chest as noun, of as preposition, drawers as noun, near as adjective, near the window, adverb, then the as determiner, and window is a noun. But the point in here is since we started our word, our phrase with on, so this will be called as prepositional phrase. Okay? Next, the longest walk I ever did. Okay, so right now we have the longest walk, and this is the subject. Did in here is though this is a complete thought. I mean, though this is the part where we can have the verb, and it is not clear which of the word in here is the object or the complement. But the point in here is we started with the word the. In the, in the context of syntax, this will be under with the noun because it is just like a pre-modifier, like it modifies the noun. Like the longest walk, da is a specific, like it is the definite determiner. The longest walk, I mean that this is the longest walk. But when you use a or an, like a longest walk, so which it means that there's a lot of longest walk you did, but which longest walk you are you refer to. So a or an is indefinite. It means undefined. It is like an ending, and it is unclear. Like which part you don't know because you use a or an. But in the longest walk, you are sure and you are definite with your answer that this is the longest walk I ever did. So when you use the as the first word in creating the sentence, the rest of here will will be a noun phrase. Okay? And lastly, adverbial phrase. Adverbial phrase, absolutely, absolutely. And since adverb in here is absolutely, like I think this is an adverb of uh, I forgot, but I will just give you later about types of adverbs because there's a lot of adverb of manner, time, adverb of location, adverb of what so and what so. Then I hope everything is clear for you to understand why phrases are vital in creating a larger structures in the language. Next, let me delete the drawings first and let's proceed with this one. Such phrases cited are subject to some kind of contextual interpretation such as a, a preceding question. For example, the first question is, where are the spare car keys? What did you do on your birthday? How did Jenny play? So the question here, class, is there are some there are some phrases uh, that is hard for us to interpret because we started it with a question like where are the spare car keys? Okay, so the question in here is, I mean the answer in here is, first let's identify what are these where, what, and how, and these are relative pronouns. So uh, we can have that one as pro, like pronoun. But the point in here is, with this, the same phrases when embedded in a full clause, like i-complete mo siya sentence, but i-complete mo siya sentence and you will not use it as a question, it would not require the same amount of contextual information to be interpreted at a basic semantic level, though context is always relevant to the full implementation of all utterances. Okay, so first question, where are the spare car keys? So the answer in here is, the spare car keys are on my chest of drawers near the window. So also my point why they, the author in here said, naghatay siya like interpretation of having the questions, and the next one is, uh, he or she instructed that there are some irrelevant that could be relevant, and some of the context can be interpreted as a basic semantic level. So in here, class, um, though we have, uh, though ang sentence lang gid diri kung atoan tong isun are the spare car keys, I mean phrase, are the spare car keys kani mo ni siya ang, are the spare car keys are, I is the verb phrase because it started with the verb like the are, but this, since this is a question, in order for us to understand it clearly, let's convert it into a sentence and try to answer that question. So, are the spare car keys is the verb phrase in there, but when we try to convert it into an answer, the spare car keys will be the subject or the noun phrase. And still, we are using the are, and on my chest of drawers near the window will be the predicate. Okay, in the, and that will be the verb phrase. The predicate or the verb phrase. Okay, so muna siya ang kaibahan. Next, what did you do on the birthday? So on my birthday, he took me on the longest walk I ever did. Next, how did Jenny play? Jenny played absolutely brilliant. So the point in there is, uh, there are some instances that the questions that you created, when you try to answer it, there are some semantic level that you need to interpret as a contextual information in that kind of certain sentence, and some of the area of a sentence will become verb phrase from noun phrase or noun phrase to verb phrase, and it will create another understanding, for us to know the syntax of a sentence. So next is, let's start with the noun phrase. So basically, noun phrase is the overall, I mean, one of the most important part, because in order for us to create a sentence, we need noun phrase and we need verb phrase. And right now, let's talk about noun phrase. Noun phrase, uh, in for tips class, actually in a sentence, kung tayo na lang tayo isa ka, like isa ka subject or isa ka noun in a subject nato. For example, number one, sleepers are the new, how do you read this one? Stylitos? Okay. So since isa lang yun siya, so ang noun will become noun phrase directly. Whether you like it or not, that is the root of the syntax. So noun phrase or the NP is the most common and probably the most versatile phrase in English. It is based around a head noun, and which is the irreducible core of the phrase and the shortest possible version of the noun phrase. So again, since this is a noun, just like what, stated in here, possible version of a noun phrase. So it could be considered as noun phrase, directly. So in here, it is identified the the full clauses. So the full clause in here is, this is it, clause na ni siya ha, ini siya phrase because we are talking about a complete sentence with a verb and a subject. So sleepers are the new stylatus. Power made him crazy, and Stephen found mold behind the bath. Let's talk about number one, sleepers. Sleepers is just one. We are not talking about pretty good sleepers or pretty Philippine sleepers or, white sleepers or a pair of sleepers,
but we are talking about sleepers only. Those This is just one noun, but we can directly convert it as a noun phrase. Next, power. Though power is something like uh, just like the first sentence, one word, but it can be a noun. Stephen found mold behind the bath, but though Stephen in here is um, a noun also, but this is a subject, and found is our our verb in here because this is an independent clause. But when we consider this one as clause, we can have mold as a noun also. But in but we can put another emphasis why this is just a noun phrase, and let's try to look at this one better. So most noun phrases though have at least one pre-modifier, usually a determiner. So right now, from sleeper become these sleepers, power will become his power, and mold will become the mold. And let's understand this one. Most noun phrase though, when we talk about noun phrase, it has I mean pre-modifiers. Pre pre means before, and it will modify the noun. So it means that the pre-modifier is a word that will give more meaning, more clarification on the noun or on the head noun. For example, sleepers are the new stylatus. So which sleeper? These sleepers. So that is the function of free modifier. It will give a clear thought meaning to the noun or to the one who is being modified. So these sleepers, and since these sleepers is not just one word, it is a combination of these as a determiner and sleepers as a noun. Determiner plus noun will become a noun phrase. Okay? So that is a determiner. Next, his power. His power. These class kanang these, those, and kanang mga inana. Uh, Always be reminded na determiner na siya. Okay? Next, his power made him crazy. Though his is a pronoun because he's, her, it's like we trying to use another term to modify our subject, but his power, his is a pre-modifier and it is a determiner. So his is a pronoun plus power is a noun. Pronoun plus noun will become a noun phrase directly. Next, Stephen found the mold. So the mold in there is what we are talking with. Though Stephen is the one trying to find the mold, but we are talking about the mold as our point of emphasis as a subject. So the mold in there the is a determiner, and it is just like what I had told you earlier. It is the definite determiner, so that will be the as determiner plus mold. Mold is a noun, so the determiner plus noun will become a noun phrase. So I hope everyone is clear about that one. So next is the English noun phrase in here. The English noun phrase can have only one determiner, and which is partly what puts the difference between determiners like articles, demonstratives, and possessives. Kani class, demonstratives din niya, kaning his is a possessive and the is an article. Okay? So, into a single class. Some language allow a combination of article and possessive, but this is not permitted in English. The point in here is there are languages like cultures or norms in the different countries or different foreign belongings. They are having slang or uh, like culture or jargons, like they are using two determiners, like two pre-modifiers to create to have a clear thought of what they are talking or referring with. But in our English context, the international standard English context, we will not use pre-modifier or two determiner. Like we should not use the my carpet. If you are referring with your carpet, you can use my carpet, or kung I mean you are doing a intensive writing, like you are writing a formal one, technical one, instead of using always my carpet, you can have the carpet. But you should not always not use the plus my, then carpet. Do not use two determiners. A his father, so a father or his father, not a his father. So that's the point in pre-modifiers. Be reminded, pre-modifiers, pre, before, and it will modify the the subject of the sentence. Next, mm, okay. In addition to the determiner, the pre-modification of the head noun may include the following order: a determiner, a predeterminer, an enumerator, an adjective, and a noun. Predeterminers can occur without intervening determiner. Okay, so we have we have the structure in here or format, and you can always look for this one if you have difficulties on the syntax structure. So let's discuss this part. Predeterminer. This is the predeterminer. Determiner. Okay, this one. So predeterminer, determiner, and the head noun. So mo ni ang head noun. And for example, mo ni atong phrase. And this will be noun phrase. All my sisters or all of my sisters. That will be the noun phrase. But sir, di ba sir ni yung kaganina na bawal to determiner? Yes, bawal to determiner. But there are cases that you can include predeterminer. Do not use to determiner, but you will use predeterminer and another determiner. So we have pre as none of, each of, most of, all of, and those are the predeterminer. And predeterminer are limited. So feel ako mo lang ni ang mga predeterminer. So if we have exactly class, kung tayo dili ka mo gamit og predeterminer, you will just use determiner. Pwede man, my sisters, the answers, those books, our water. But there are cases na you are talking about all of or none, because dati mga indefinite pronouns, definite pronouns. So let's have predeterminer. All of my sisters, none of my sisters, none of the answers. Okay, all of these will fall into noun phrase. Mali na kan. Noun phrase. Okay, always noun phrase. So let's try to. I will give you a small idea how we try to use syntax and try to determine why it is noun phrase. Okay, let's have this one. Magsulat ko ha. None of those books. So that is just a noun phrase. Ganun noun phrase man siya. Okay? So noun phrase in here, you will put this one. In this part, kaning noun phrase, you will use like predeterminer, pre-d. So that is the predeterminer. And the those will be the determiner. So you will put d. So that's the basic rule. You need to identify the parts of speeches. Next, books is a noun or the head noun. Dapat ako ang n. So noun. Next, unsaon nimo pagkuan? Dili man nimo siya diretso actually class. Pwede siya i-diretso pag-identify na noun phrase siya tungod kay subject man gid siya nato. Pero we need to have a specific rules for us to conclude a noun phrase. So we have this one. Uh, those plus books will become determiner plus noun will have the noun phrase. NP, and this one, noun phrase plus noun phrase will become NP2. Okay, so inana na siya. So, unya na to na i-discuss because I know task is na topic. So next, I hope everyone is clear about this one. So let's move on, and we are still talking about noun phrase. Okay, so quantifiers in the noun phrase. So there are quantifiers just like what I have told you, all, no or none, each or most. Okay, so quantifiers are like determiners. Quantifiers in the noun phrase. These are the example. All officers, no answers, each book. Okay, so when you when you add quantifiers plus head, because this is your head noun, it will result as a noun phrase. Okay, so all plus officers will become noun phrase. No plus answers will become noun phrase. Each plus book will become noun phrase. Okay, another example, another justification is this one. All officers are tasked to are tasked to clean the house. Okay, kani siya. So, atong buhaton is we need to identify first the asa ta mag-end. Ay, mali. Okay. So, this is the predicate and this is the subject. So, all will be quantifier. Mali pa class. Unahon mo ang Q. That is quantifier. And officers will be H, the head noun, or we can have N as noun. Next is you need to identify which umbrella they are belong to. So they are belong to the umbrella of noun phrase or NP. So inana na siya. Okay? So I hope everything is clear, and let's clear all the drawings and move on with next. Enumerators in a noun phrase. So we have enumerators, and these are the numbers. So the enumerators are predeterminer class. So just like what I had told you, predeterminer kani. For example, one of my sisters, two of my sisters. So mahulog siya sa predeterminer sa tohang kaning structure. So nara, 10 officers, 12 officers, 5 books. And just like what I had told you, hatag na po ko another example. I mean, justification. 10 officers are tasked to clean the room. Room na punta para mausap. Uh, Next, identify the verb. So, diri mag-start ang predicate. And this will be the subject. Subject, and this will be the predicate. So, 10 will be, first 10 is enumerator, or you can say determiner na siya dito. So, tanan enumerator or predeterminer is always considered as determiner. So 10, it will be the determiner, and officers is a head noun or the noun. Then we will arrow that one arrow, and creates noun phrase. Our topic, noun phrase. Okay, so I hope everything is clear. Next, quantifiers, determiner, combinations in the noun phrase. Okay, so we talk about quantifiers recently, this one, and we talk about determiner, this one. So there are cases that quantifiers and determiners are combined with each other. So this is it. All is the quantifier, like quantify all, quantify none, no, quantify each. Next, the determiner will become the, and head are the noun. So all of the officers, none of the answers, or no, and none of the answers, or most of the answers, or each book, most of the books, ano siya. So, parehanan na siya, class. Justification. Um, all books. All of the books. So all will be a determiner, and noun, books noun. That is the determiner also. Do quantifier siya, buto niya like di diretso. Okay? Next, the of in here is, I think this is a preposition, pero i-discuss ko na lang na later because in here, pwede man nato siya i-neglect na lang or exclude the of or of. Actually, dili ni siya off class, of ni pagbasa. So, right now, let's talk about, isa-isahon yun na to ha. So, this is prep. Okay. Di ba kung masakto class prep? Prep na siya. So, isa-isahon na to. Noun man siya. So, butang na to siya diri So, mahimo siyang NP. NP. Next is preposition. Preposition plus NP will become prep, prep phase. Then all as determiner. Wala, nawala. Ayan na. All and prep will become NP. So basically, all of their subjects are under NP. So I hope everyone got it. Next, clear all the drawings and move on. Determiner and numerator combination in the noun phrase. So basically, parehara yung siya kanina class, the 10 officers, that will be the determiner, and numerator is 10, and officers is the head. So arrow ninyo siya ditso, arrow na siya ditso, and noun phrase ditso. Next, determiner, enumerator, and dogs, parehara gina siya kanina. Ang her is the determiner, though it is a like a possessive noun, a pronoun, but it is always called as determiner. Then enumerator, like first, second, third, or three, four, five dogs. Panahagin na siya class. Okay. Next, adjective pre-modifiers in the noun phrase. So there are times that na ay mga instances like sentences we use adjective for us to like modify that kind of noun or modify that kind of adjective uh, to 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 give a clear idea. For example, when we talk about skirt, what kind of skirt? So we need to add adjective like green skirt, green Chinese silk skirt, long green Chinese silk skirt, her long green Chinese silk skirt. So in here, her in here, number one. Let's have number one example. Saan to? Number one example. Okay, those gorgeous red Indian linen trousers. So those will be the determiner, general. Kani class, kani good? Kani? This is the order of adjective. Like, di ba naman tayo order of adjective? Wait, i-search na ko ang order of adjective para ma-ano ninyo? Para ma-remind mo. Order of adjective. So, ang order of adjective will be first number or quantity or quantifier, then quality, then size, age, shape, color, then proper adjective like origin or nationality or material, then the purpose or quantifier. So uh, let's not focus on this one because kabalo na mo about adjective. My point in here is even how many adjective you put in your subject, it will still under the noun phrase. Okay? So, kuanan ninyo muna siya dito. So, i-add tanan-tanan to create noun phrase. Next, delete, delete, delete. Next will be form function relationships in the noun phrase. Okay, so these are the ways for us to have a noun phrase, and we will have a form function. The form function, it means that there is a format for us to create a noun phrase, and this format or these formats are the formats that we should follow for us to have a noun phrase, because noun phrase is fixed, noun phrases are fixed, and we cannot include other things aside from the format that we use to create a noun phrase. So in the pre-modification, when we talk about the pre-modification, we are talking about the pre-modifiers, then the head, and the post-modification is after the head. There are some words uh, that are necessary, or we can exclude that one. But there are really some of the words na kailangan po. Unya na nato siya i-discuss, but the pre-modification, I will read it. These are the predeterminers, the determiners, the enumerators, the adjectives, and the nouns. And the head is the noun, as always. And the post modification is prepositional phrase. For example, the dog in the house. So in the house is the prepositional phrase. The dog, da is the determiner, dog is the head. Prepositional phrase is uh, in the house. And the relative clause in there is we will discuss later. So in here, this will be the form function relationship sample sentences. So the pre-modification are the determiners in here. The and his and the head are pig sty. I think sty na magbasa. Sty. And farm. Sty lang yun siya. Next, post-modification. Number one, the pig in the sty on his farm. So post-modification, in this part, the post modification, we are the the phrase that is being added in here starts with in, and in, as we go back to the basics, it is a preposition. So the whole post modification phrase is called prepositional phrase. This one, and just like these parts, though this is a clause, because this is a clause, really, this is dependent, like dependent clause, like magdepende pa siya. What is in the sty on his farm? Maybe the pig, okay? So that is the clausal effect or the clausal function to form a noun phrase. So the sty on his farm and his farm in wheelchair. So though wheelchair is a noun, but this is not our head, because we aren't talking about this one, and it is just a post modification that is being added, starts with in as a preposition. So this will be a prepositional phrase or prep phrase. Next, this is the relative clause. The rat that ate the malt, the rat that lay in the house, the rat that Jack built. So we have the clause in here, and this is the dependent clause, just like what I have told you earlier. And the independent clause started with the that. And not yung mga dependent clause good na. We start with a because, although, since, if. And in this part, we use that. And actually, class, this is the sentence. Basahon ako as obos. This is the cat that chased the rat, that ate the malt, that lay in the malt, that Jack built. So, pwede siya man dito, di ba? So, these are just post-modification. Every, every bit of it are just the noun phrase. Like, this is the cat that chased the rat, that ate the malt, that lay in the malt, that Jack built. All of here is just a noun phrase. This is not a complete sentence. This is just a noun phrase in here. Kani, kani. But actually, the thing is, in post modification, we can just neglect some of the parts, like the rat that lay in the house. We can have that one. the rat that ate the moth. We can also have that one. But for example, the latter part, the rat that Jack built. Really? Uh, ang rat yun ang build ni Jack. So there, that is a function that we cannot go directly to the third part if there is or there is none a pre-modification with that latter part. Okay. So I hope everything is clear. Just always be reminded that all of these with pre-modification plus head plus post-modification will go directly under noun phrase. And this that is not the whole sentence. That is just one phrase of a sentence. So let's clear all the drawings and let's proceed with another potential complexity of the noun phrase. So we have a position. What is a position? Two or more noun phrases. A noun phrase in the phrase structure as shown in the following phrases. Class, when we talk about a position, this talks about um, um, like a phrase that is being added that will modify the main subject. Like Mr. Clark, the Home Secretary. So always put in your mind that whenever the opposition comes, there will always have this comma after the main subject. Okay, so for example, Mr. Clark, comma, and this is the opposition, and opposition will become a noun phrase also. I mean, is always noun phrase also. Then she saw Mr. Bun. Mr. Bun is the noun, and the baker in here is the opposition. What an old thing, oh guys. My sister-in-law, Sandra. So Sandra is the opposition of my sister-in-law. Okay, so all of these are under noun phrase. Next, I think we are done with noun phrase. Let's talk about verb phrase because in order for us to create a sentence, we should have noun phrase and verb phrase. So according to the generative theory, the use of the verb and all that follows it are termed as predicate. So just like what I have told you, after the verb, all of the word that follows it is termed as predicate. However, the verbal element of the clause sentence is functioning as the predicator. Okay? So, unya na ako na-discuss. Uh, though all of those are called predicate, but after the verb, those element after the verb are called predicator. Note, the verb phrase structure in English reveals not to be built with its morphology since it has a distinct function and form. So the meaning in here, class, is the verb phrase structure in English. I mean, defining the verb phrase in a sentence, we will not use morphology like since remember morphology, the morpheme. So natay dapat mga phonetics like from phonetics we can create a morpheme, and the morpheme is uh, those words. Then after the word, so after the word, it will create a meaning. Like the word from like a word has different functions. Uh, let's have a recap. First, basta may pwede na ako mahatag na example. Like previous na to na, ano, na discussion. Okay, kani. Uh, mm, okay, let's talk with dance. So she will dance. She will dance. Dance will be the object in there. I will dancing uh, in front of the crowd. So dancing will be the subject. That is not an object. Uh, The dance studio, so the dance is accompanied with studio, so that will be a noun phrase, and that is also in a subject, but it is accompanied with another word. So those are the morphology. Like when we talk about morphology, let's have a recap. There's a lot of forms, varieties, and functions, and just like what I had told you earlier. But in the verb phrase, we should not use those morphology, varieties, forms, functions, because in the verb phrase we are just using the overall uh, idea of constructing a sentence, not the word choice, the diction, the semantics, not those things. Okay, just plainly, clearly, pointly with the construction of the word. So next, verb phrase will start in here. Verb phrase structure in English: the modal, perfective, continuous, passive, main verb. So these are the muna siya ang actually uh, makakreate a verb phrase. Okay, so um, we have the modal. Modal are those might, may, those things. Perfective are the auxiliary like have, has. Then continuous is like katong ano na to, continuous subject and verb agreement, been. Then the passive is being, like might have been being. Then the main verb is the last part or the latter part of the whole verb phrase. So next is the modal auxiliary in English is considered a subclass of the verb phrase with at least the following members. First, may, might, must, will, shall, should, would, can, could, ought to. So note, modality is an important semantic contribution to the interpretation of any text. Like the point in here is when we talk about modality in a semantic context, though we have like for example at uh, our main verb is eat, but you want to express yourself that you will eat later, not today, but the main verb is eat. So you could say that I might eat, di ba? Just kang dili ka mo ingog later, I might eat, or I should go eat, or like I must eat. So ina na siya, like the modality will give the the verb phrase or the phrase its clearest meaning. Okay, so next is this is a summary of English verb phrase, and I hope you will follow this one for you to create during our tree diagramming, for you to create the whole bunch of verb phrases structures. So first, the modal: might, should, can, could, will. Katong tanan-tanan na diri kani. These are the modals. Perfective: have, has. Have is the plural form. The has is the singular form. Then the continuous or the progressive tenses from uh, tenses of the verb. So we have been, is, be, ana siya. Next, the passive is always be and being. Next, the main or the lexical term. Biskan pag the reason why it has lexical because when we use might have, we should have seen like a past participle. We should not have, for example, might have, i-box na ko para ma-gets ninyo. The first example, might have seen, might plus have, modal plus perfective plus main lexical should be might have seen. So kung mo yung kag might have saw, mali siya. You are using the past tense in our verb, the past simple tense of the verb. You should, when you have might have, you should always use the modal plus the plus perfective plus past participle. Like past participles are like eaten, seen, like na yung mga written, mga en, mga n. Okay, so for example, number two, has been trying. So has is the or pick up depende sa mong kuan sa imong subject. But for example, a people have, but yung type person has. So has been trying. So has plus been plus ing form of the verb. You should not use has been tried or has been try, has been saw. You should always use ing form of the verb, like has been trying, has been crying. Okay? So next is being burned. So we can has is burned or being burned or is being burned. Like you should not use is being um, burning. So mali siya. Okay? So just read all of these. Just read all of these. Kaya nagpasa naman ko PowerPoint sa inyo last time. These are just the formats. These are fixed formats that you should use for us for you to identify the English verb phrase structure in our syntax. I will just delete this. And next is sa pa class eh. Next is okay. We will go with adjective phrase. So finally, adjective phrase. During our syntax, we can use AJP or ADJP, like adjective ADJP. Pero maghatag lang the consensus na. Pero sa kuan na part, we are used with AJP. I mean ADJP. So ADJ tuldok then P. So mo yung gamitin next time. Pero yung tayo example, kung dito nyo makita ang ADV or ADJP sa inyong let next time or any examination na dili sa ako please use AJP, okay? So, we will talk right now with adjective phrases. So, kabalo naman mo ana kanina class, naghatag na ko kanina. How to use adjective phrase. In syntax context, adjective phrase in English are very simple. Usually an adjective on its own or pre-modifier or pre-modified adjective by an intensifying adverb. So, for example, number one, she is pretty. She is a verb and is the she is the noun, is a verb. Pretty is like pretty is the complement to the she because she is pretty, but this will end up like an adjective complement. So since isa lang man siya class, like ano lang man siya, adjective lang man siya. So pwede na to siya mahimo siyang verb is plus adjective will become verb phrase. Okay? Badong kan ba ko basig record ako. Okay. Next. So that will be an adjective complement. Next. Wala ni class ha, wala ning he. Ay, naka-blue man good sa second sample good diri naka-blue man good ang ang he. Dapat wala naka-blue, dapat the ni siya, then incredibly untidy house. So, okay. The incredible untidy house, this is just a clause, right? Okay, wala man siya, wala siya verb actually. But let's try to this is this is a noun phrase because kay na may the. Pero let's talk about asa siya dapitan naging adjective phrase. Naging adjective phrase sa diri sa incredibly untidy lang na part. Nga naman, because incredibly uh, will give a clear modification with the untidy or with the untidy house. So though untidy is uh, like an adjective also, but in here we can have an adverb because an adverb can like confirm the adjective or an adverb itself. Inana siya. So next is that will be a pre-modifier adjective phrase. Ganong pre-modifier man siya tungod kay the incredibly untidy. This will be the kanilang uh, kanilang the incredibly untidy. This is a pre-modifier nga naman. Pre-modifier, it means na maghatag siya justification sa house diriya. Okay? I hope everyone got it. Next, she is sad about her friend's illness. So this is a prepositional. Ngano prepositional naman? Tungod kay nag-start siya sa about. In here, she is sad about her friend's illness. I think ang about diriya is prepositional, but the whole sentence in here is acts as an adjective because it will give a justification to the sad. Why is it that she is sad? Because of friends' illnesses. Pero during sa class, sa syntax, this will serves as a a prepositional, okay? This is not an adjective. But ang reason lang anong na-under sa adjective phrase explanation because this one is just a justification or an explanation of why is it that she is sad. Next, they are likely to come to the party. So this is a clausal. Though this is to come, though this is to is a preposition because to is a preposition, but this serves as a clausal adjective phrase. Why? Because they are kani class to come to the party. This is a dependent clause. Like dili man siya dili gid siya dili siya mabuhi kung wala ang they are likely. Kung wala ang they are likely, okay? So though this is a preposition, but the whole in here is a clausal adjective, but during our like tree diagramming, you should put that one as a preposition, okay? So next, I hope everyone is clear about an adjective phrase. Let's talk about adverb phrase. So in here, adverb phrase is the simplest among English phrases because maghatag yung tag ko ang class kanang it is made up only of adverb and any pre-modifying intensifiers that are also part of an adverb class, like very closely, like closely, right, right slowly, amazingly subtly, very obviously, nearly always. So, mo ni ang mga adverbs class na pwede nyo magamit. So, there, here, away, and then, pero kaning place, gadri there are some cases na pwede siya mahimong I think pwede siya mahimong pre-modifier, pero it will, as long as na siya adverb, mahulog lang man gyapon siya, i-pair lang gyapon man siya sa noun phrase or sa verb. So, maka-create gyapon tag sentence. So, just be familiarized with these adverbs. And I know that you already knew these adverbs because nag naman ta, discuss na ta about sa, kasi tawagan na, sa module or sa tracker. Next, I think last na gini siya. Okay, prepositional phrases. So, very basic. Just like what I have told you. Once nag-start siya preposition, and all of the words in there will become prepositional phrase. For example, um, in the house, in. So, since in, maot mananaon eh. Okay, di ko makatarog sulat. So, in the house. So, this is a prepositional phrase because we have, nani siya klase, yun ang prepositional phrase siya tungod kay um, house is a noun. Uh, da is a determiner. Kag mayon sa nako ha. Da is a prep. So unsay mahitabo is inani. Noun is mali. Noun plus the will be NP, and NP plus prep will become a PP or prepositional phrase. Okay, so I hope everything is clear with those things. And I think our presentation is end. And thank you very much for listening, for uh, putting some emphasis on your time because this is critical part in your growing or like your maturity in English language. So since we are done with semantics, uh, then phonetics, morphology, phonology, all of those we are done right now with syntax, and all of those are syntax. Okay, so I hope everything is clear to you. Just comment down like PM or chat in our GC if you have questions, or kung maulang mo, just personally message me, okay? So thank you so much for listening, everyone, and have a great day. Ciao.